And welcome to an episode of DIOTALK. I'm Dio. Let's talk. My guest of the evening is coming all the way from California. She's a self-published author. She has a brand new memoir called "I Didn't Come This Far to Only Come This Far." Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to Pamela Topjian. How are you? How are
I
you this
am doing
evening?
really great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And, getting back into the rhythm. We just got brand new year, first
Yep.
recording of the year. So I'm
Oh,
excited
nice.
and nervous.
Yeah.
Um, so what inspired you to take initiative and you know put the pen to paper and start writing your memoir?
Yeah. Well, I had a major mental breakdown after a second divorce, which was an abusive marriage.
Wow.
And after that, I was kind of suicidal and anxious and everything. And so I was going to therapy and I started writing everything out to kind of connect the dots and get it straight in my own mind. And through that, I was also reading other memoirs, which kind of helped me to not feel so alone and to realize that people do get better, that people do heal from really tragic things. And so part of the reason I decided to publish it was because I thought that my story would also give that to other people as well.
Wow.
A lot of what I had been through was not was a lot of what a lot of people have been through, and not something really, really horrific like a lot of the memoirs I was
Yeah.
reading. So I thought that ordinary people could sort of more so relate with my story, and know that as cliche as it sounds, that it does get better and you can come out of that. So that's why I published it. I started writing it partially as my own just sort of journal through my therapy.
Wow, that's amazing. Was
Yeah.
it was it did you reading your material, was it sort of were you reliving your past trauma? Was it difficult, and did you go on that emotional journey for the second time?
Some of it was, and it took me, I think it took me, was it 2 years, 2 years or 5 years? Took me years anyway to
Wow.
write it all out. Because I start like at the very beginning, like where I was born and my childhood growing up. And then I get into all the way up until it was published. So I so some of it I was reliving and some of it I was just sort of going through, just trying to remember things and just writing it down, sort of documenting it kind of.
Yeah.
But the really hard, difficult parts, I did have to maybe write a paragraph and put it away for like a month. There
Wow.
was no timeline for me. I didn't have any kind of deadline that I put myself on to have it done by. And I definitely gave myself those breaks that were needed. Yeah. Yeah, it was difficult at times.
It's very encouraging. You're very brave to just relive that and feel confident to put your story on paper for you putting yourself out there so people are not alone. That's something to
Yeah.
admire.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
you're
I
most
also did it
welcome.
for my children too. I have adult children, and
Okay.
although they haven't read the book, but I thought that at the time I thought, if the suicidal thoughts won, I thought, well, then they would have sort of a record of what
Wow.
got me to that point. And by the time I was done writing the book, I was, healed and had been through therapy and taken all these steps on my own to help heal as well. So I was no longer having those suicidal thoughts. But it's nice to kind of have a record of, even if it's like a great great grandma,
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
road, or if my father has passed away, my mother has dementia, and I would love to have some sort of life story of theirs, even if there wasn't any trauma. But of course, most people live through something big in their life, right? So, but even without that, it would be so cool to just have the life story of, past family.
Yeah, I admire that so much because you never know what your children are going through or what,
Right.
their children might go through. and to have somebody, proof of somebody saying that, yeah, I went through that. Yeah, it was
Right.
difficult. Sometimes we're dark, but I was able to come out of that. I
Yeah,
think it's important to have that uh reassurance that we're not alone,
exactly.
and we in some way or form we are connected.
Exactly. And I do believe in like generational trauma, like, whatever,
Yes.
like I don't show my feelings very well because of a lot of the things growing up, and my children don't either. And it's just kind of interesting that they have sort of inherited that, and it
Mm.
wasn't because of a specific thing, but it's just something that they kind of picked up, I guess, from me through growing up. And they might not even realize that they don't show their emotions real big or that they're holding that back or in or where it came from. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
are they very stoic people?
Yes. Yes, they
Wow.
are.
Was did you have anyone in particular when you said it was all done and it's published, did you have
Mhm.
somebody read it for the first time?
I had a few people read it just kind of to test read it before I sent it to an editor. And I was kind of surprised at that time that people were like, wow, I didn't realize you had went through all that. And I'm glad you're still here. And, even like family, like after it was published, but family, most of my family has not read it, but like I have a cousin that I'm really close with and stuff like that. And like childhood friends and people who said, I had no idea that that was going on and sorry you went through that and everything. And that wasn't why I wrote it. So I didn't really want the,
The pity,
sympathy.
yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah.
but it made me realize that maybe my story has more of an impact on people than I thought it might, kind of made me realize that.
Was it you mentioned suicide, like
Mhm.
was there a moment in particular that I can't explain, I've never gone through it myself, but it's like you tell yourself it's enough, I'm gonna choose to live rather than end it. How was that moment for you?
Yeah, so I have a sister that was killed in a car accident when she was
Wow.
18 and I was 14. So really the only thing that kept me from doing that was I didn't want my mother to go through losing another child.
Wow.
you know um so I had actually, and it's all in the book, but I'd come to a point that I was having nightmares. I kept changing jobs, nothing was working out. I could barely take care of myself, and this is before therapy. And I got on a bus and moved to California, and I was in the Midwest. I was in Missouri at that time. So that was sort of a last ditch effort. And then in California is when I sought therapy, and that I had tried in Missouri, but it didn't really work out. So, California is a little easier to get
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
what you need. So I was kind of, I'm going to give it all that I can give. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to live like this, like I was. Um, but I have to give it my all and see if I can come out of this, this funk that I was in, Um, so that kind of is what helped me. I couldn't do it because of my mother, but then also let me do everything I can to see if I can come back to life, basically. And if that doesn't work out, then I probably would have. So luckily, here I
You're
am.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much
And I
respect.
actually love my life so much more than I would have ever even known possible. And I credit that to therapy. And I just want people to know that you can be having nightmares, highly anxious to where you're fearful to do anything and go anywhere, and be suicidal. And even, I was in my 50s. I mean, I'm in my 50s now. So even at that later time in life, there's still hope to get out
Yes,
of that
yes,
to,
yes.
thrive and not just exist. So people that are in that state oftentimes want to just be able to exist and be okay, but I want people to know that you can do more than just be okay.
Yes,
You can really thrive.
it's
Yeah,
not just a sad story, it's a story about overcoming
exactly.
and everything in life you can't rebuild.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's something I respect so much that you went through that, but most of all, I admire you overcame that because
Yeah, thank
that's a
you.
story, most welcome. That's a story in where a lot don't have the ability to say it. All they
Right.
know is they overcame this, but to be able to express it and talk about it
Yeah,
and share it to those who actually are in need and need to hear something like that. That's
right.
admirable.
And a lot of people write their book, about their story and about overcoming, but they still feel unsure about speaking about it.
Yeah.
And I have done some other podcast interviews in that, and I feel like this is empowering. Even though I've like I said, I'm feel like I'm healed, but it's still empowering not only for others, but myself as well, to be reminded and to be able to tell other people that, you know, and it's beyond the day-to-day living. It's going through and reminding yourself and showing others
Yes,
that there
yes.
is hope. Yeah.
Do you think like we in I want to say 2024 because this is the new year, right?
Yeah.
Do you think one of the main concerns is that we're suffering so many mental uh problems, mental struggles is because we don't have that person or no one's telling us, "Hey, you can actually do this. It's going to be hard, but you can do this."
I do think that a lot of people feel stuck. They
Mm,
feel like they can't get out of it. A lot of people, there's still a huge stigma with therapy and especially with men, but women too. Um, my sister, for one, she's been through a lot of the same things I have been through, and she's never been to therapy, and she's older than me. I mean, just the fact that we lost a sister is enough,
yes,
but there's so
yes.
much more after that. And she's like, I'm okay. And she's not okay. But I do think that there's a stigma with therapy, and they don't realize that, a lot of times, writing the book and speaking about it shows people that you're not alone. Other people have been through things. A lot of times people think either it wasn't that bad, I'm okay, I've gotten through it, when they really haven't, or they think that's something they need to keep secret. That's something in the
Yeah,
past. Let it be in the past. I don't want to even think about it, let alone talk about it with
right.
somebody. So there's those two kinds of things that are going on, I think, with people.
Yeah, it's what is that saying? It's what they tell themselves to reassure themselves. Ah, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
That's
Right.
okay. They brush it off and just continue to push it, down.
Right.
And
Right.
one day it's gonna come out and
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, there are sayings, you have to feel it to heal it, and the only way out is through, and those are just some quotes and some sayings, but it's really true. It's really true. Yeah, you have to
100%.
feel it.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I think we're, one way or another, not drastic, but as humans, we go through that. We need
Yeah,
that. Sometimes we need to let it out. We need to
right.
grieve, go through that cycle of emotions.
Right.
It's like when somebody you care about passes away, you need to go through his emotions.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. I recently, or like last year, I had a friend that had committed suicide, and I was feeling I was very upset, of course, but whenever somebody would say to me, I'm sorry for your loss and stuff, I felt like I didn't deserve that. I felt like that statement is for the family,
yeah,
and for her children and stuff. And so I think that we need to allow ourselves our feelings. I think that that happens a lot. We don't allow ourselves our own feelings. Like, oh, it wasn't my loss, but it was my loss. I was a friend with her for many years and we were pretty close. And I had spoken to her just a couple days beforehand, and it was a big loss. I was feeling it, and that was okay. But I was even my own self, I wasn't accepting that it was something that I need to give myself permission to grieve for. And I think that happens with a lot of people, not just with a loss like that, but whatever you've been through, allow yourself to go through those feelings. Don't just brush it off. Don't pretend everything's okay or drown yourself in whether it's drinking or even just movies and junk food or whatever, don't drown yourself and bury it. You have to let it out.
Yeah.
And that's even, like I said, that's just a lesson for myself, even still, because it's been a year of, a lifetime of stuffing feelings down. So, yeah.
Now you gotta face it. And
Yeah.
there is another side toward that,
Right.
towards
Right.
that. What made you become a hypnotherapist? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So I was a nurse for 14 years,
Wow.
and it was the whole system, I don't want to get political or anything, but the whole system felt corrupt. There was a lot of unethical and immoral things going on behind the scenes. And actually, I'm writing a second book about that. But but anyway, so I was looking for a way to get out of nursing. I was looking for something that was a little more holistic and still in the healing modality. So I had went to a course that had a little bit of all different types of healing modalities that were more in the, healing arts kind of,
Mhm.
more natural, holistic fields. And I found hypnotherapy, and I just was amazed at how powerful it was, how good it felt, not just to receive it, but it feels good to conduct sessions with clients. It feels good. I get almost as much out of it as they do. And it just felt like I was really helping somebody so much more so than I ever did in my nursing career. So I went through, all the steps to get certified. And I've been doing that since 2020.
Wow. So like how does that work? I show up
Yeah.
to your office, place of work. Like can you walk me through like not it doesn't have to be detailed, but just a small example on what to expect anybody interested in your service
Yeah.
or just trying to figure out how to help themselves.
Yeah. So actually I do all my sessions online, and thanks to 2020, we were able to
Oh,
get a lot of
cool.
practice with that. So it's either by phone or by Zoom. And I just ask that the person is comfortable. We usually have a consultation. So I always give a free consultation, and we talk about their issues and if I think that hypnotherapy would be helpful for them. And they sometimes don't know what's going on, but they know that they're stuck. They know that they don't feel right, or they've been going through therapy like psychotherapy or counseling for many years, and they don't really feel like they're getting anywhere with it. So, we just, we go through I relax them down, and it's just like a guided meditation, but it goes much deeper. So I talk them down into relaxed state, make sure first that they're comfortable, that they can hear me without having to hold a phone or hold anything, and that they're not going to be disrupted for about a half an hour or so. I just talk them down into a relaxed state physically. And then once they're in that state, then we discuss whatever the issues were for them, with their subconscious mind, and ask for these things to be released and healed, or there's another way that you can do it with it's um, very visual, where we go through metaphors and things, like we go through walking on a forest and you come across this tree and blah, 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 or it's a beach scene or whatever. And I use the person's words as for what they want for their life within the session. And that helps the subconscious to realize this is what we're doing. So yeah.
Wow,
And I do have
that sounds very peaceful and relaxing.
right. And a lot of people will say to me, I've never been so relaxed in my whole life. And if they feel like got nothing else out of it than that, then that's good. People need to learn how to relax. And at the end of the session, I always say, while they're still sort of in that state, I say to them, that you can do this on your own. You can get back to this place in your mind's eye anytime that you'd like. All you need to do is close your eyes and remember this time, and that feeling will come back to you, you
Yeah,
know.
that sounds amazing, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. So I do have a YouTube channel which has a lot of guided visualizations in that. It's not exactly the same as what I do in my hypnotherapy, but it's very similar. And it's just my name, so it's just Pamela Topjian is my YouTube channel. So
Nice,
it gives a
nice.
little bit of an example of some of that stuff.
Well, but make sure you go check her out and subscribe. What do you think that, like, what is it in your opinion? Why do you think the world it's so tense, right? Because I can
Well,
imagine clients, approach you, get your services, and they're just stiff as a I don't know, as a tree.
part of it is stuffing down those feelings and emotions for so long, denying themselves their feelings. I think also people sometimes are looking for a quick fix and they're going to go, they're
Mm,
depressed, they're going to go
preach.
get a pill,
Yeah.
but they still haven't dealt with, they might feel better because of the medication. And I'm not knocking medication at all, but, they're looking for a quick fix a lot of times. And so they'll try this and they'll try this and they'll try this, and they're just making it worse for themselves. And there is that stigma, of mental health and therapy. Even with hypnotherapy, there's a stigma attached to it. But I also think, even just in the past, before 2020, everybody was just so busy, and a lot of people were working in jobs that they absolutely hated, like me.
Like me.
Right. Everybody dreads going to work on Monday,
Yes.
So they were doing this stuff and keeping busy and not really making changes that they needed to make, just partially because they were afraid of change, but they're so busy as well. And then like the generation before that and coming up to my generation, we didn't talk about what was wrong. We just, we got through it, right? But I think since 2020, there's been a lot more sort of behind the scenes kind of divide
Hmm.
and kind of, fear, going on with a lot of people. And I do think the media is feeding that a lot.
I agree.
So there's just always a lot, you know.
Yeah, I don't know, like for me per se, like I'm not sure if it's because of the trauma I've received as a child, very much like you,
Mhm.
and where like anything that occurs negative, or I just want to deal with it. I don't want to brush it
Yeah.
away. I don't want to how do you say pick and choose what's important, what's not important. I want to face it front on, because it's too much baggage at the end of the day to carry. It gets exhausting.
Right. That's great. That's great. Yeah, more people need to do that. You get faced with something, you get a trigger, or something comes up in your memory, or just you have a stressful day and then other things start coming up just because you're already stressed. Deal with it then. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you aren't able to deal with it then, as soon as you can.
yeah, I agree. It's
Yeah.
well, we definitely need more individuals like yourself that can share their experience. I think before 2020, there was this big saying, and where it was very influenced in the hip hop community, and where they said, was it live fast, die young? And you have
Mm,
now in days where there's a lot of success with young kids or young adults,
hmm.
and where they don't have that
Right.
mentorship or somebody, an elder that can share their
Right.
knowledge and talk about that. I think that's very important
Right.
in society to have that balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And part of the problem too, I mean, there's so many layers to everything, but I think that we're divided as families as well. Like
Yes.
children are going to daycare as babies, they never have that just one-on-one time all day with their parents, except for maybe the weekends, or the time that they do, even the children are so busy with all their activities. So like I said, there's so many layers, but I think that's part of it as well. There's just so much divide, and even within families. Like I live far from my family, even my kids, I live far from, and I live far from my mother and my sister, and that's pretty normal. You don't see a lot of families that still live all in the same spot. And I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying nobody should move away from their family,
Yeah,
but generations ahead, you always had somebody else to mentor you or that you could look up to, to learn from, even just by being around them.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's life. We right now, economy, we're going through a struggle. Mentally, the world's going through a struggle, but it's one
Hmm.
of those things that it either makes us or break us, right? And where
Right.
you some way or form, you gotta, take hold of the reins. It's your life. It's
Right.
you gotta I don't want to say attack, but you have to have the I don't want to say the balls. It's like you got to do something. I think
You have
that
to take action. Yeah, you
yes,
have to
there you
make a
go.
decision and
Perfect.
take some
Yes.
action.
Yes.
Right. Right.
I think everything is very we're always looking for somebody to point the finger at and say,
Hmm.
no,
Oh, yeah.
because of you, you know?
Right. I see that a lot. I see that a lot. The people, even clients that come to me, well, this is because of my ex-husband. Well, this is because of how this person is treating me, or this is because of my boss, or, I have this trauma because of, childhood stuff, which of course that's not any children's fault. But I mean, they're not taking their own, it's like this person did this to me,
Mm-hmm.
or this situation happened, and now I'm like this. Rather than putting the blame or saying it's because of this. It's like, let's look at what we do now. Where do we move forward? Not, we don't want to look at the past,
Mm-hmm.
what happened. I mean, it's important to know, but it's also important to have a forward focus,
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah.
focus on healing and getting to where you want to be.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, sometimes we can't control what's around us.
Right, right.
We can't, I think that's the most difficult thing about being a human being is where we can't control what's around us because that's sometimes
Right,
what affects us the most. But
right.
it could be like you then where one day you wake up and I'm tired of this. I had enough.
Yeah.
I gotta, I gotta get out of here. I gotta do something that's, that's a critical moment where you step up for yourself.
Right, right. You realize
Yeah.
I can't live the way I'm living right now. So what am I going to do? Yeah. And
So
just make those decisions.
yes,
Yeah.
100%. You mentioned in your bio that you're very happy right now. You're like you're at
Yes.
what can you explain to anybody listening or anybody watching this that is going through a hardship or going through a struggle that like what makes you so happy now that you're just living
Well,
life despite of the difficulties, right?
anything that isn't working, I'm not going to do it. Then I'm looking for, well, why am I having, why do I not want to do this? Why am I having this trigger come up? Or why am I
Yeah.
feeling this way? Or, even something as small as, a group of friends going to see a movie. I don't want to see that movie. So rather than just going along, I'm going to say,
Hmm.
no, I'm going to hold back on this one, you just even something as little as that, but also like the big things, like not being afraid to take a leap, and
Yes.
maybe it won't work out, but at least at least you tried, it's like changing careers, like getting out of nursing and going to hypnotherapy, like publishing the book. I mean, anything that I do is because I really want to do it, because whatever I was doing wasn't working. So it's like making those, standing up for yourself, really. There's an article, it's an old article. And I don't know if I can swear on here, but
You can.
um,
The
the,
floor is yours.
the
You've earned
article
it.
is, the article is something like, if it's not a fuck yeah, then it has to be a fuck no, So and that's how I live my life. If I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
going,
beautiful.
yeah, I love this idea. This sounds and feels really good to
Yes.
think about it. If it's not that, then no, And I do like pet sitting on the side, and I absolutely love doing that. I don't have pets of my own, so what can I do? So I'm going to do some pet sitting. And if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it anymore. So,
Yeah.
and then I can still do my hypnotherapy with people online while I'm pet sitting. So it really mixes well with that,
Yeah,
and also, yeah. So, I mean, everything I do, I love doing. And I'm not going to do anything that I don't love doing. I mean,
yeah.
other than like, I always use the example of course, I clean out the toilets and I don't love it, but, but I don't dislike as much as I like not having a clean bathroom. So,
Yeah. I mean, it takes, I guess that's what the misconception is that, and where I don't want to say this generation, but I want to say in this time frame we're in, everything is I want the instant gratification, I want the money, I want all this,
right.
but you have to go through so much BS to find what makes you happy.
Yeah, yeah. And have that courage to say, you also hear a lot, don't ever give up. Well, I think it's okay to give up if it's not working out. I've given it my all. I realize this isn't what I thought it was, or this isn't working out the way I thought it would.
And that's
Um,
okay.
yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to say, well, that wasn't right for me. I thought maybe it was, it's not. So, you know.
I
Like,
tell
don't
people,
hang on to those
yeah,
jobs and those relationships and
absolutely.
whatever.
I tell everyone that I don't give up, I just walk away.
Right, right. It's
It's
not giving up. I tried. I tried and I
yeah,
realized it wasn't right. So I left. Yeah,
yeah, trying to it's you at your most unhappiness when you're forcing yourself to do something you don't want. It's not working. You're not connecting to it.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's like you're all your life you've been in school, high school, and all this, and you don't want to go back to school. But here's the thing that people don't understand, that once you get out of high school, you graduate, there's college. And college, there's courses and different things that you might like what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
But you got to go through the BS sometimes to be able to, because I guess the most difficult part is learning who you are as a person.
yeah. Yeah. And that's part of what makes me so happy now is I feel like my whole life up until now, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know myself. I felt like I was always, sort of stifled or always sort of, I had two marriages before and they were both abusive in their own ways. And I was always walking on eggshells or scared to speak up or, even express myself, whether it's creatively or emotionally or anything. And now I feel like that total freedom to be myself has introduced me to me, and that's part of what makes me so happy.
Yeah, I feel as a man, I feel like that most of the time, and where I practice and how to better communicate what I'm saying, my feelings, because sometimes
Yeah,
people, you know, especially families, sometimes they don't listen. And
right.
unfortunately for me, right, everybody listens when I get upset. And I don't want to,
Hmm.
I don't want to live a life like that. I don't want to live a marriage like
Right,
that. I want to be able
right.
to, if I'm giving you time to listen and I'm listening to you, we expect it from one another. So,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
try my best in that way. Sometimes I feel like because I'm in a marriage, I have two older stepdaughters on my wife's side, and there's certain things as a man, as in the household, I'm not trying to, rule with an iron fist, but it's difficult to express how I'm feeling when
Mhm.
nobody's listening, when it's you're it's
Yeah.
the household's full of girls and I'm the only boy, and
Right, right.
I just, it's playing chess. I learned just how to play chess. I gotta pick my battles, but and when I'm feeling something, I gotta do my best to articulate and say in a way that it's not hostile, because that's not fair to me. That's not to the
Right,
fair of the person I'm uh trying to share what I'm feeling. And usually when I'm able to do that, it's a better outcome. And that's what I'm
right,
looking
right.
for.
it's taking that moment to step back before you just react, taking a
Yes.
moment and collecting yourself and thinking, what do I really want to convey here rather than just bursting out in emotion? Yeah, it's
I
just taking
agree.
that, just taking a minute to step back. Yeah.
You're so peaceful, you're so calm.
Oh, thank you.
Have you I want to ask you, right? Have you ever punched somebody in the face?
No, no.
I think if because you're so calm and I think if you're able to have the chance to do it, take it and you'll feel the rest of a lifetime.
Oh my gosh. That's
But
so funny. You know, people used to say to me, "You need to get mad. You need to get mad. You need
yes.
to do something like that." And you know, there's these sayings about yes, I meditate, but I still want to slap somebody sometimes. But I never feel like that. I never feel like I want to hurt somebody else, you
Oh
know.
man,
So
when this pandemic hit and everyone needed to get out the house, so I invested in
yeah.
academy and do jujitsu. The best time
Oh,
of my
nice.
life. The best time of my life.
Yeah.
Because you need
Great.
that as a human being, you need that decompression.
Oh gosh, yes.
I know that I'm not perfect. I can irritate people, but I know people can irritate you. So, you know, in jujitsu is like, come over, we'll give you a hug. Try to,
Nice.
choke you, all
Yeah.
right? But if you ever have that chance, take it. You deserve it.
Yeah.
You're a strong
Yeah.
woman. You survived so much. You came on the other side, which unfortunately not a lot can say. And you're killing it. You're doing what
Right.
you love. Some days it get hard, some days are difficult, but that's what age and experience does. And you realize not
Right.
everything's so serious,
Right.
you know?
Right. Have some fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
there has to be a balance, and that's part of it too, is making sure there's a balance. So I was painting for a little while. I
Oh,
started in like
nice.
2019. I'm not great, but I love doing it. And so I realized what is missing. You know, I need a creative outlet. I need something to
Yes.
do that's just for the fun of it, just creative and for the fun of it. And, you know, there's no rules or it doesn't matter how it turns out, just for me. And so I started painting. I thought, I've always loved art and, admire artists. And so I thought, I'm going to try to paint. So, you have to just think once in a while when you're just all irritated or things aren't going well in every way. It's like, where's my balance? We hear of work-life balance so often, but we don't always hear about, am I getting enough exercise? Am I eating right? Am I sleeping okay? Do I have a creative outlet?
Yes.
Do I feel like I have a purpose in my work that I do? Making sure you have some hobbies. I know a lot of people feel like I don't have time for hobbies, or I don't know what I would even do, but you have to have some self-exploration
Yeah.
as well
Try it. Try
to
it.
see. Yeah, just try it. Yeah.
One of the things that I miss, and I do not miss being a child. That's one thing that,
Right.
if I ever had a chance, I will never go back to. But one thing I miss is that I was able to walk. And,
Mm,
whenever I was upset or going through something or had this feeling that as a young boy, I did not know what was happening or I didn't understand it, I would go for a
yeah.
walk. And because I grew up in
Yeah.
in Puerto Rico, it's not, here,
Hmm.
So it was so refreshing and you know, the view of life will give me this form of therapy that
Hmm.
I never knew existed. So it could be something as simple as that.
Right. Absolutely. And I love walking and going on hikes and that as well. And that is almost like a meditation in itself. It's just connecting with the earth and with nature and just getting that physical exercise and, having everything around you that's more open than any place that you're in,
Yeah.
but just being out there. Yeah. And
Have you?
clearing your head, breathing
Yes,
fresh air,
yes,
all of that.
yes. Have you ever thought about being a mentor to anyone who's going through something and help them out?
Well, I feel like I kind of do that with my hypnotherapy and, but not really just as a mentor. I'm not sure. I haven't given it thought. I'm not sure how I would do that or how that would work.
I mean, hopefully when
But
this
yeah.
episode comes out, there'll be a lot more people reaching out to you. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not sure your religion or anything, but God gave you a purpose and slowly but surely you're finding your way in it.
Yeah.
And the more you get closer, the more you smile, the more you're happier, and the
Hmm.
more things are passive and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
loving life. And yeah, I
yeah,
would love to help others to get past whatever they're going through, to so that they can also love life, no matter how old they are.
yeah,
That's a big thing with me is, I was in my 50s, I'm in my 50s. It wasn't until I was 50 that I started writing the book, Um, and I went for therapy in my 50s, and it's a lifetime of
yes.
not knowing myself, a lifetime of trauma. And, finally, it's like now I'm making up for lost time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, men and women have this false perception, and we're like, you turn a certain age, and that's it.
Right, right.
And that's not true. There's so
That's
much
not
more
true.
to explore. Each decade brings a new challenge, new experience. I grew up with my grandparents, right? And uh at their 60s, 70s, here they are, moving their
Right.
things to Puerto Rico and opening up a business, a new adventure, exploring new
Nice.
options,
Yeah.
never stopping.
Nice.
And
Nice. Yeah.
we need, you keep doing till your breath stops. That should be
Right.
the law.
Right, right. And that's what I thought too, is, um, the time is gonna pass anyway. So what do you want to do with this time? And you don't want to just sit and wait for just accept things the way they are, even if you're not happy, and just sort of wait to die,
No.
or, you still have, I've got a good 20 years left, at least, but at least 20 years for sure, other than like a car accident.
Yeah,
But,
God forbid.
I yeah, but I have a good 20 years left, and that what do I want to do with that time, Yeah. You have to think in those terms. You're not, like you said, as long as you have breath, you're not too old, As long
Yeah.
as you have your breath and your mind, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to still have your mind.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very important. I man, life is like a give and take.
Yeah.
You're gonna take some shit, but make sure to give some shit because shit's real out here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
You
real.
know,
Yeah.
but you have this amazing book. I think the title of it's freaking awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So kudos to you for that. Before we go, please tell the people where they can find your book, they can follow you on social media, subscribe to your channel.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So the book is called I Didn't Come This Far to Only Come This Far. And
Boom.
you can find it on Amazon. And it's easier to find by putting my name in there, just Pamela Topjian. It's on Kindle as well as in paperback. And my social media, just Hypno Breakthrough, is on Facebook and on Instagram. I don't normally give out my personal, social medias, and then the YouTube channel, if you want to hear some sort of guided meditations and hear the voice that I use, you think I'm peaceful now, wait till you hear those. And that's just my name again, that's Pamela Topjian. So the for hypnotherapy, if you're interested in reaching out, that's hypnobreakthrough.com. So, and that's also, you could find those on the social medias as well. Yeah.
Boom.
So thank you very
Make su-
much.
Most welcome. Make sure to go follow her. Go check our YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Help her grow her channel. Help this.
Thank you.
Go get her book too. I know a lot of you. I know a lot that need something can reassure themselves that there's a better tomorrow. You just gotta put the work in.
Yes.
Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Deal Talk TV. Go follow me on Instagram at Mr. Have a good night, everyone. I'm out.